Hello, MCU fans. Today we're going to take a look at Wakanda Forever's surprising Disney Plus timeline placement. Well, at least it was a surprise to me and some of the people I talked to, but regardless, more so than just where it's placed, we're going to talk about why it was placed there and how understanding that can add a lot of depth and meaning to the movie when you understand the reasons behind the placement. So I think you're really going to enjoy this. All right, so let's dive right into when Wakanda Forever is placed in the MCU timeline. So I always like to turn to Disney Plus. And in this case, Disney Plus has placed Wakanda Forever between Moon Knight and She-Hulk. And that is not where I placed it. Not at all. So I really had to dive into this and figure out why did they place it here. And I want to send a couple thank yous out to some rock stars, both Ava and Drew. You two are amazing. They helped me brainstorm for hours at time on the placement. They helped me find some deleted scenes, which we're going to refer to. They helped me get a hold of the script, which we're going to refer to. So Ava, Drew, could not have done this without you. Thank you so much. And then I always like to give a shout out to the MCU Wiki, which is both online, but there's also a Discord server for it. So check it out. It's awesome. All right, so where did I place Wakanda Forever? Well, I put it in October. And there were reasons, I promise. So let's go into that briefly so you can see why I placed it in October. All right, I trusted this guy too much. That's the bottom line. I love you, Nate, but man, why do I keep trusting his quotes? He's the producer on Wakanda Forever and several other things as well. And he said, oh boy, in terms of years, I couldn't tell you. I could tell you where it sits in the other movies because I would try to do it somewhat chronologically. But if you asked me, if you held a gun to my head, I honestly probably would get it wrong. Okay, well, first of all, I should have been concerned when he started like that. I just don't understand how a producer doesn't know when the movie takes place. For example, Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel prominently had 2025 displayed on a street vendor's sanitation grade renewal date. And granted, Namor didn't produce Miss Marvel, but anybody that wants to see the dates, they sneak them in there. In fact, in this case, it wasn't even snuck in. It was pretty clearly seen in the background. So they have to know the year, right? And even more so, I mentioned the script earlier. Let's take a look at the script. It's online if you want to look at it. It was actually called Summer Break. That was its code name. But the script on literally page 2 has 2025 in it. On page 2. Now, do I expect the producer, Nate Moore, to read an entire script? No, I do not. But clearly they knew the year. So I've said this before, but I just think the producers and the writers and the directors are told, don't mention the year. The average fan doesn't even remember that we're in 2025, right? So if they suddenly say, oh, this is in 2025, they'll all be going, wait, it's in the future? Huh? So, timeline-obsessed people like me, yeah, we get it. But I think they just intentionally avoid mentioning the year. But anyway, he does go on to say something helpful. He says, yeah, I mean, look, if you think about it, this movie clearly happens after No Way Home and the Eternals. I think it probably potentially currently happens with Love and Thunder. New Asgard does exist in our universe, for instance, in our film. And almost concurrent with Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, which is coming out in February, or it's coming out this month now, right, in 2 weeks. Okay, so yeah, he gives us a lot here. He says it happens after No Way Home and Eternals, potentially concurrent with Love and Thunder, and almost concurrent with Quantumania. But I should have been suspicious when he said probably and potentially in the same sentence. Basically, he's saying, I really don't know. I'm making this up. Please don't call me out on this. So anyway, regardless, this is why I placed it right there in October, because it is after No Way Home and Eternals, basically concurrent with Thor Love and Thunder, and I'm assuming Quantumania is going to be in the timeline in early 2026, so it is before Quantumania. Also, in general, Marvel likes to move the timeline of the movies forward. If you look at all the different movies in here, they keep moving forward. So I just assumed Wakanda Forever would be in the timeline after Thor Love and Thunder. Well, anyway, I was wrong, and that's fine. I totally don't mind being wrong. I defer to Marvel. It's their timeline, and then I just try to make sense of, okay, why did they place it there? But I have no problem changing it, so it is now officially May of 2025. I mean, it could be April as well. We just know it's after Moon Knight and before She-Hulk. So, okay. So I do have a question, though, and this is important to think about. Are they saying the beginning of the movie is in May of 2025 and the rest is in 2026? Because remember, there's a year jump. After T'Challa passes away, it jumps forward a year. So is this the beginning of the movie, or is this the main part of the movie that is in this placement? You might say, well, certainly it's got to be the main part of the movie, right? Well, let's look at a couple examples in the timeline. So if we look at where Doctor Strange, the first Doctor Strange, is placed, it's a long movie. I mean, it covers from February of 2016 all the way to the beginning of 2017. And it's placed in between Black Panther and Thor Ragnarok, but most importantly, notice, it technically starts before Black Panther. Okay, I mean, it's fine. That for whatever reason, they feel like it makes more sense to watch it or to consider it as happening after Black Panther. But I mean, believe me, there's a scene with his watch in the movie, which I cover in my breakdowns of all of the entire timeline, which go check those out, by the way. They're interesting. But it starts in February of 2016. So, okay, in this case, Marvel placed it after. They placed it when the main body of the movie is occurring. However, you might remember Thor the Dark World placement. It's been always controversial. So remember, in Avengers, they capture Loki, Thor grabs him in chains, he goes straight to Asgard. So the opening of Thor the Dark World is right after the end of Avengers. So in the timeline, they actually placed Thor the Dark World prior to Iron Man 3. Interesting, because the movie, if you notice the dates, it starts before Iron Man 3, but ends after Iron Man 3. Okay. By the way, a lot of people don't like this. They still say, no, we got to watch Iron Man 3 first because the majority of Thor the Dark World is after that. All I'm trying to say is these timelines are hard. It's why we need the timeline book that's going to come out soon. We need that book because, they're just trying to place something in a timeline when the dates can be confusing. So we really need the dates and the months, not just placements in a timeline. But here's the real thing. Notice this. Remember I said, the beginning of the script, it said the movie starts in 2025. Starts. Interesting. And it even says it's 1 year after Endgame. A little more than 1 year, but basically it's 1 year after Endgame. Then when we jump forward after T'Challa's death, it says 1 year later. Interesting. So it would have said 2026 if they put the year in here. So that goes back to my point. Is this the beginning of the movie or is this the majority of the movie? Well, thank goodness, thanks to, some of the rock star help, Ava, thank you, there's a deleted scene out there. And in fact, you can go see it online where Ross infiltrates the NSA to get Riri's laptop. It's kind of a cool deleted scene. In fact, Google broken toilet. That's the easiest way to find it. I'm not going to explain why, but because I don't want to ruin the deleted scene. But trust me, broken toilet, we'll get you there. All right, here's the key, though. When you watch that deleted scene, you are not going to see this deleted scene from the deleted scene. Literally, the scene that's online has some of it deleted out of it. But on the Blu-ray, you can clearly get an extra piece of a scene. So I don't know why they've done it this way, but you got to wait for the Blu-ray if you want to see this. But notice, a piece cut out of the scene that's released online shows a date very prominently. 2025-05-07, May 7th of 2025. And this is in the latter part of the movie. This is after the 1 year jump. So it's a deleted scene. It's not canon. I've always believed that, but it still gives you hints and clues as to what the producers and the writers and directors were thinking. So based on this, I believe they're saying that the main body of the movie is in 2025, and therefore T'Challa passed away a year before this in 2024. But I'm just trying to give you all the facts because it's just kind of interesting stuff. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add in a couple movies. I'm going to add in Civil War, Black Panther, and Avengers, Infinity War to this breakdown because we kind of need to see them to discuss since some of these things go all the way back to Infinity War and even Black Panther. But also, I've been asked several times, dude, why do you care what Disney Plus says? Why do you even care? And that's a very fair question. Very fair. Because a lot of people think it's wrong. They think, they're just making stuff up. They're like Nate Moore, and they make stuff up. Well, here's the key. We do know there's a timeline book coming out, right? I can't wait. Please get out here as soon as it can. But it's in September, unfortunately. We got to wait a bit. But notice, forward by Kevin Feige. So I do believe, unless Kevin Feige says in the forward, we really don't know, we're just making it up. I doubt it. He's going to say this is the definitive timeline. Well, here's my question. Do you think for a second that they're going to release this book and it's going to be completely different than the Disney Plus timeline? Like completely different? Here's why I don't think that's going to be the case. because this guy cares about the MCU. Uncle Kevin cares about every single detail obsessively. Look at those eyes. He's staring at us right now saying, you think the D plus timeline is wrong? Really? You think I would let something so visible be so wrong? I guess we'll have to find out, but I will be shocked if the book contradicts the Disney Plus timeline. Now, if it does, I hope they fix the Disney Plus timeline, but I'm going to bet you Uncle Kevin has synchronized things because he's in control of everything. All right. Anyway, let's move on then to the clues as to why they put it in May. Okay, so we know the main part of the movie is exactly, not just close to, but exactly 1 year after T'Challa's death. Because Shuri's mom mentions, hey, it's been a year. So exactly, it's rare they do this, but they said to a T, it is 1 year since his death. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, Wakanda Forever, the main part of the movie is in May of 2025, so a year before that means T'Challa died in May of 2024, right? But that does raise an interesting question. Does that mean T'Challa was alive or dead during Falcon and the Winter Soldier, when the Dora Milaje showed up to basically take Zemo away? Well, I would tend to think he was alive, because I would think if he was dead, and it's looking like this is all right around the same time, I would think that Wakanda would be pretty busy dealing with the death of their king. So it kind of makes sense to me that T'Challa was still alive at this point. So, okay, that works, because Falcon and the Winter Soldier covers from April all the way to June, so just that part of the show likely happened before his death. Just my opinion, but it just kind of seems that way. All right, what else do we know? Well, Ramonda shared her disappointment with Nakia when they met up later in the movie, and she said, it's been 6 years since you left us. I thought you would at least come back for the ceremony. Okay, interesting. So that means it's been 6 years since Nakia left Wakanda. Okay, what else do we learn? Well, Okoye, poor Nakia gets it from everybody, but Okoye shared her hurt with Nakia, and she said, after Thanos' attack, when you left us without saying a word, it hurt. Well, Nakia responds and says, when he was taken away from me just like that, I had to step away and let myself break. I couldn't just keep going on as if nothing had happened. So that definitely sounds like the reason Nakia left was because of the loss of T'Challa. She's making that clear. That's why I left. Okay. And she left without saying a word, by the way, we learn. Okay. Well, then that means that she left very soon after the blip. Right after T'Challa was blipped away, she bolted out of Wakanda and went to Haiti. Okay, that works. It still all fits in. By the way, it is just a little bit more. It's almost 7 years, not 6. But if she left in, let's say, June of 2018, it'd be 6 years and 11 months. So I'm going to say that Ramonda just rounded down, right? And that's fine. I mean, do we say 6 years and 11 months, or do we sometimes just say 6, right? So that works. 6 years ago, Nakia left Wakanda and headed to Haiti. Okay, great. So we know that T'Challa and Nakia had to conceive their child prior to Infinity War, because it wasn't after Infinity War based on his age. So it was sometime before Infinity War. So what can we learn about this? All right. Well, the script gives us some interesting details that were not in the movie. So these are not canon, but still, this is interesting to read. So check this out. It says, this is Nakia talking to Shuri. When I left Wakanda after the blip, I came here. I found out I was with child. I had him and raised him here. When everyone came back, T'Challa came here secretly. We agreed to continue to raise him here and to introduce him to Wakanda when the time is right, but we didn't want the choice to be made for us. T'Challa prepared us for his death, but forbade me to attend the funeral in Wakanda out of fear of exposing him. We had our own rituals for him here. All right, that's what's in the script. Now, this is what's in the movie. A lot simpler, but she says, we agreed it was better for him to grow up here, away from the pressure of the throne, so that's consistent. And your father prepared us for his death, didn't he? But he didn't want us to go to the funeral because he felt the time was not yet right. So we held our own ceremony here. Well, why do I bring up the script here? Because I think some interesting details they do tell us in the script that are not mentioned in the movie, and I think are so important to understanding the movie, is that number one, she says she found out she was with a child after she got to Haiti. Because I've always wondered, why on earth did she leave Wakanda, the most technologically advanced nation in the world, to go to Haiti? And I'm not dissing on Haiti. It's just Haiti ain't Wakanda. So this would imply, the script would imply, she didn't know she was pregnant. And remember, she told Okoye she left because she lost T'Challa, because he was gone. So it is consistent here. What else do we learn? Well, we learn that T'Challa went to visit T'Challa Jr. That makes me so happy to know. I mean, the movie doesn't say whether he ever met his son. You would think he did, but it doesn't say it. The script, however, does tell us that. So I'm going to just call that canon because I really, really like that. And we'll talk more about the fact that it was many, many months he got to visit him even, which that's just really cool. So, but also what's key is Nakia says, we agreed it was better for him to grow up here. Well, when did they agree this? Did they agree this prior to him being born? Or did they talk about it, after T'Challa came back from the blip? Well, I can tell you from having a son myself, you talk a lot with your partner, with your spouse, about how are we going to raise him or her, what are we going to do, etc. So I am sure they had these discussions well before they even got pregnant of, hey, if we do have a kid, we need to raise him up outside the kingdom. We don't want him to have the pressures of the throne. So I believe they had this discussion about, doing it somewhere else way before. Okay, so let's put some things together then. It seems like she didn't know she was pregnant when she left Wakanda, so that means Toussaint can't be much more than 6 years old because it's only been 6 years, right? Okay, so there's that. So if we look at this again, that would mean that they probably got pregnant right before the snap. She left right after the snap. She found out she was pregnant and she had him. And then now in May of 2025, he would be, assuming the pregnancy or he was born, at the end of 2018, well, he's probably 6.5. Okay, sounds great, 6.5. All right, here's a good question though. Why didn't Shuri know? I mean, what's going on? Well, the answer is pretty simple, right? She was blipped for 5 years. So when Nakia found out she was pregnant and had a T'Challa Jr. in Haiti, Shuri wasn't even there. But also, this is really cool. This line, which was right before Ramonda and Shuri took off to go do the ceremony about T'Challa's death, the AI jumps in and says, "Excuse me, Princess, Nakia is trying to reach you again." Well, the key there is again, first of all, again. So Nakia's been trying to reach Shuri. So that's kind of cool that when Shuri came back, it certainly seems like Nakia was like, I really need to tell her. I really need to tell her. But did Ramonda know? I mean, assuming that Nakia left Wakanda, just didn't talk to anybody, just took off, did Ramonda even know? Well, she must have, because in this scene, remember when Namor shows up, it stops their tender moment together, but right before Namor shows up, Ramonda said, "There's something I need to tell you about your brother." Well, one would certainly think that Ramonda knows that she has a cousin, that basically T'Challa had a son. So, wow, we're learning lots of little pieces about all this. But what else do we learn? So Nakia also tells Shuri that her mother met Toussaint. Well, that's cool. I mean, we know from the script that T'Challa met his son, but it's nice to know that his grandmother met him as well. But it's also interesting that when Ramonda meets him for the first time, because that's him in this scene where Ramonda shows up in Haiti, they don't even acknowledge each other. Neither one of them. They act as though they don't know each other. So does that mean that Ramonda had not met Toussaint even up to this point? I think so, because if we look in the script again, which is not canon, but it really helps us get some ideas of what was going on here, Shuri says, "Did Mother meet him?" And then it cuts away to a flashback, which I'm almost wondering if this will end up being a deleted scene, to be honest, but to a flashback, and it says, "Ramonda and Nakia watch the boy that we saw at the school. He's dominating on the soccer pitch. He runs over to Nakia, introduces him to Ramonda, whose eyes are wet with tears. Ramonda tenderly touches his face." So this scene wasn't shown, but this implies that Ramonda first met Toussaint in that scene where she shows up in Haiti when he was 6. That kind of makes a ton of sense if you put it all together. Okay, so if your head is swimming, it's because, number one, they didn't lay all this out very clearly in the movie. But number two, when you put it together, it's really cool. So let's go through this timeline, and I hope that this will add some meaning to the movie for you, because it certainly did for me. Okay, so we learn that T'Challa Jr. is conceived shortly before Infinity War, and mainly because she didn't know she was pregnant when she left. So then T'Challa and Shuri are snapped in May of 2018 in Infinity War. Then Nakia leaves Wakanda without saying a word to Okoye, but likely without saying a word to anyone, and goes to Haiti. I'm just kind of guessing it was, right after that. It could have even been the end of May. But the point is, it was before she knew she was pregnant. Okay, then Nakia discovers she's pregnant and gives birth to T'Challa Jr. in Haiti. So probably around January of 2019, 9 months later. Then Nakia raises T'Challa Jr. alone in Haiti, but at some point she does tell Ramonda, because remember, Ramonda knows. So during this whole time span, it's just Nakia raising her all alone, or him all alone. Then T'Challa and Shuri come back from the blip. October 2023, because that's when Endgame is. Then here's what I love. According to the script, at least, and therefore officially in my headcanon, T'Challa gets to secretly visit Nakia and T'Challa Jr. in Haiti off and on all the time, during the entire time span, of October of 2023 and May of 2024. I love that. So let's just assume that happened, right? Then, I believe T'Challa is king when the Dora Milaje retrieved Nemo, remember, in Falcon and the Winter Soldier? But then almost like within days after that, or maybe a week after that, T'Challa dies from the mysterious illness in May of 2024. Then Nakia tries to contact Shuri multiple times. Ramonda even tries to tell Shuri about T'Challa's secret, and this is in May of 2025. And then finally, Ramonda goes to visit Nakia, sees her for the first time in 6 years, and meets T'Challa Jr. for the first time. I love all of that. It really makes me feel better and again, we don't know for certain this is the timeline, but it takes all the hints and clues and puts it into something I believe that's coherent. And it leaves us understanding that Nakia didn't know she was pregnant. That's why she left. That's why she didn't stay in Wakanda. And it lets us know when Ramonda finally met T'Challa Jr., etc. So I love this. I'm going to call it canon, but obviously it's not official unless they release it, hopefully, in the timeline book. Hey, Marvel, if you want to read this, right, take a screenshot of this and put it in the book, please, or something close to it. All right, so bottom line is that's why May of 2025 works so well, and I believe adds a lot of meaning to the movie when you put all that together. Okay, so what are some other reasons we know it's May of 2025? Well, Riri Williams is a student at MIT. We learned that in the movie. So I looked at the registrar's office for MIT academic year 2024 to 2025 just to make sure this fits. And sure enough, classes end in May, and then finals are in late May. And, according to that screenshot, the movie's happening May 7th. So, okay, just barely, but it works. It works. Riri can be, still at MIT because she's still in classes. In fact, really probably very, very busy at this point, preparing for finals and such. Okay, so we also know that Riri took a couple of months, is her quote, a couple of months to build the detector. Well, honestly, that makes more sense than my October placement because a couple of months would have meant, if it was in October, September, October, as I placed it, then she wouldn't even have been in school at that point. So that always kind of bugged me. So a May date makes much more sense, that she's well into the school year, obviously almost done. And so she built the detector maybe first semester potentially or early second semester. Okay, then this is wild. So also, Riri says she has to get to differential equations class when they try to take her away. Shuri and Okoye try to take her back to Wakanda. Well, look at this. Differential equations is only offered in the spring at MIT. Can you believe it? It's all connected. Now, I have no idea if they looked to see when this class was offered, but wow, I am amazed if that's what they did. If they looked to see, hey, let's give her a class. Let's say she's going to a class that's only in the second semester in the spring. Wow. Way cool. All right, so what else? Well, the weather is appropriate for May because in Virginia, where we see Ross jogging, he's in shorts, the trees are green, that all works. Maybe the only thing, and I'm just throwing this out for fun because I don't think this is an issue, but the only thing is, if you remember the She-Hulk finale, when She-Hulk is in her actual She-Hulk form talking to Kevin, Kevin says, can you please change back to Jen because it's really expensive, to have you as She-Hulk. But then he also says, hey, but do it off camera because our special effects team has moved on to another project. And then they play the Wakanda Forever noise. So at least the She-Hulk finale kind of implied Wakanda Forever was after She-Hulk. Hey, that's another excuse for why I placed it after, right? I'm trying to explain my earlier replacement. That's totally wrong. But so, technically that's misleading then because in the timeline it was earlier, but also she's in the AI right now. So who knows if time is, completely irrelevant when she's in this AI area. But just anyway, it was just one more little subtle hint that Wakanda Forever in the timeline might be after She-Hulk. But does not matter, does not contradict the placement. And I still love the She-Hulk finale. Some people can't stand it. I love it. All right. So what are some other things we learn? Well, we learn Namor was born in 1571 because they do show us that. They make that really clear. But I thought this is also interesting. The script gives us when his mother died. Because you remember later when his mother gets older and passes away, he takes her to the shore to bury her. Well, they don't tell you what year that was, but 1631 makes sense because that would be 60 years later. So yeah, okay. Again, not canon, but for those that really love dates, I would argue that part of the movie is in 1631. And then also, we obviously learn that Namor is a mutant. And I think that's really important because he's the second mutant that's been named specifically, because obviously Ms. Marvel was the first. There are other characters that showed up in She-Hulk that are mutants in the comics, but certainly Namor and Ms. Marvel have been said to be mutants. It's just another reason why I think Daisy / Quake, when she shows up in hopefully Secret Invasion, as I mentioned in an earlier video. That's why I think she'll probably be a mutant, or they just won't tell us. I mean, she could be an Inhuman, but they're really pushing mutants right now. But either way, I don't care. If they make her an Inhuman, it doesn't matter. But I just wanted to point out, we're definitely seeing mutants showing up, and Marvel is leaning heavily into mutants. All right, we also learned that Val is now the head of the CIA, which is pretty amazing because that puts her in a very powerful position in the government. I mean, she's clearly got to step up from when she was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So yeah, that is scary actually. And then also, I think Ross's expression was the same as our expression there when we learned they used to be married. Oh my, wow. I can't see those two together. But hey, opposites attract, it works. So anyway, we learned that about Val. A couple other important things. There's the new Asgard and Ritson Easter egg, both shoved into this one little news ticker here. So we learn that there is a President Ritson, and we learn that he is signing a trade pact with New Asgard. So that's interesting. Let's talk about the New Asgard part first. In Spider-Man No Way Home, there was a news ticker Easter egg that said there's political turmoil continuing in New Asgard, and that would have been in July of 2024 is the point in the timeline where this news ticker would have been shown. So clearly, that turmoil has been addressed, and now America and New Asgard are entering into a trade pact. It is just interesting, though, that at the same time America and New Asgard are getting along, clearly America and Wakanda are not, and the tensions are being raised. So I'm sure those plot lines are going to come back to haunt Wakanda and to haunt the U.S. Perhaps in the Thunderbolts. There's rumors that Val might lead the Thunderbolts to get vibranium in that movie. So we'll see. But now let's talk about the President Ritson piece of that Easter egg. So Ritson is going to be the president when we get to Secret Invasion, because this is kind of a leaked set piece, I guess, that a newspaper headline that I'm assuming we'll actually see in Secret Invasion. But notice, President Ritson in London for emergency talks. Whether he's in London or not doesn't matter so much, but again, he's the president. So he was the president in Wakanda Forever, and he will continue to be the president in Secret Invasion. Well, until this scene, at least, because it sure looks like he ain't going to end up too well after this. And I've heard rumors. Here's a crazy thought, and this is not a leak. This is not a spoiler. This is just a potential rumor, is A, he might die, because it makes sense he might die. But B, what if it turned out, because it is Secret Invasion, right? What if it turned out he was a Skrull? Wouldn't that just freak people out? To think that the President of the United States was being impersonated by Skrulls. So that may well lead to my theory, which is we're going to get a President Ross. I mean, unfortunately and tragically, William Hurt passed away, and then we know Harrison Ford is being recast as Ross. And you don't pick a heavy hitter like Harrison Ford unless you're going to do something with him. So remember, he used to be General Ross, then he was Secretary of State Ross. Why not President Ross? And then I just think this would be amazing. After he becomes President Ross, what if he turns into the Red Hulk? What will happen then? Again, this may all be leading to both New World Order and Thunderbolts. I mean, there's some good stuff coming up. Marvel is definitely laying the seeds to some amazing movies in Phase 5 and beyond. Okay, so another Easter egg is Scott Lang's book tour. So noticed in the news ticker, this time we get Scott Lang continues tour in support of autobiography, Look Out for the Little Guy. Now note that this is different than the podcast that was mentioned in Miss Marvel's show. That was Big Little Me, a Scott Lang interview. So this is something different. Literally, he is going on a book tour for his book, Look Out for the Little Guy. And this is a scene from Quantumania. But here's what's really wild. This book, you may already know this, but the information broke yesterday, but this book is actually legit. Like, you can buy it on Amazon. I love you, Marvel. This is just so cool. They're literally tying the book into the movie. Now, strangely, it's not released until September 5th of 2023, because you would think maybe it would be released at the same time as the movie. However, this is the same date as the Timeline book. So maybe it does make sense. They're going to basically release them at the same time, and I'm betting they tie together really well. Because remember, this is Scott basically saying how he has understood the Marvel Cinematic Universe, how he's experienced it and sharing it with the world. Love it. But do you know the one person I guarantee that will not be mentioned in this book? Think about it. This guy. Give it a second. Give it a second. I know, it's a bad joke. I stole it from a friend on the Discord server, but that just cracks me up. Sorry, Peter. I love you, man. Is it too soon? Too soon to be making fun of your situation? Sorry, man. All right. Anyway, so bottom line, it is crystal clear that Wakanda Forever is in May of 2025. So what does that mean then for some of the movies and things coming out? I mean, it said that it's, not far away from Secret Invasion and Quantumania for sure, but I think also Secret Invasion. Is it possible that those are also going to be in 2025? I guess so at this point. I had kind of assumed they were moving into 2026. Now, I do like the idea that we're slowly catching up in years to Marvel. So if they do more in 2025, then real time, we're in 2023, obviously. Real time, we may catch up to Marvel at this rate. But on the other hand, though, oh man, there's so much going on in 2025. Can we stick any more in here and have this make sense? I mean, again, this is why the timeline management makes so much sense to do. Why you have to have at least some idea. You don't have to be as obsessed as me. I don't think many people are, and I'm glad, because I'm crazy. That's obvious. But to have at least some idea of where this is all happening, I think it really helps. Also, I did update my, I kind of call it like a circuit board view of the timeline. And notice now Wakanda Forever is in the lower left-hand corner there, May of 2025. Doesn't really connect with much right now. I mean, obviously it feeds directly from Endgame, but it's happening around the same time as Moon Knight and She-Hulk. So, in fact, probably in the middle of She-Hulk, maybe. Some of the flashbacks in She-Hulk are even before May. So, very interesting. And I'm sure Wakanda Forever is going to end up tying into things in the future. I will put, by the way, my entire Phase 1, 2, and 3 diagram on my Google Drive. So you can look for that as a pinned comment to this video. I'll have a link to that. And also, speaking of things that will be linked, the Discord server. If you're not a member of the Discord server, come out and join us. Over 300 people on it from all time zones around the world. So there's always a great conversation going on. Come join the fun. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we'll all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, ever-expanding Marvel Cinematic Universe.